Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fridays with Steve. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm getting my notes set. This will be a bit of a different episode as we're going to take a look at Microsoft, dealing with Microsoft, fiscal years, a little bit of inside baseball when it comes to kind of understanding the relationship, understanding their cadence and things like that. As many of you might know, I spent over a decade at Microsoft as an employee, as an FTE, and got pretty immersed in the culture. I left about 10 years ago. But what's interesting is a lot of the things are the same when it comes to cadence, when it comes to sort of general operating principles. There's a lot that's changed, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there's also just a lot of things that sort of remain in the sort of the core of the culture. And so what I wanted to do is talk a bit about what that means to all of us. So for some of us, us here at Apex, others, listening and watching from the partner community, is that Microsoft's probably one of your biggest partners. A way you go to market with a lot of your solutions, and that cadence matters a lot. For a lot of our customers, it matters a lot too, right? It might be one of your bigger software or services vendors if you think about cloud services. And their cadence, their directions really make a huge difference. So rather than having a ton of slides or trying to run through kind of a PowerPoint based story, I captured some thoughts on notes. You'll catch me looking down occasionally just to make sure I hit on the major points I want to hit on, and we'll just sort of leave my friend up here and kind of run through these three items, right? So talk about FY23, talk about some of those changes, and then talk a little bit about FY24, fiscal year 24. So a couple of base level elements to set. Microsoft's fiscal year is 180 degrees off from the calendar year. So if you've ever wondered why there's a big push in June, or if you ever wondered why you can't get a hold of anybody in July, it's because July 1 is the start of the new fiscal year. Microsoft has sort of always worked this way. And while, those of us who either transact or consume licensing via CSP, via, cloud solution providers, it's really changed cadence with the NCE changes or new commerce experience changes. A lot of us have sort of like a February date, February-March kind of date. But traditionally, lots of large customers had EAs that enterprise agreements. I'm being very good about acronyms today. Who had enterprise agreements that they would renew at the end of June. And for a lot of the partners, those transactions would literally come down to the wire, 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. You missed that cutoff date. You missed it being recorded in Microsoft's fiscal year that was current. Microsoft's fiscal years are named for the year they end in. So right now, FY23 makes a ton of sense, but they're starting FY24. And so for the next 6 months, you'll have to kind of scratch your head a little bit because it'll be a year in the future. And I think it's important, because of the importance of the Microsoft relationship for both partners and customers, to kind of understand a little bit of this. In most cases, for most of us, they're sort of the 900-pound gorilla in the relationship, right? It may not always be fair or just, but they're the, what would that be? They're the 12-figure company. Units, thousands, millions, billions. Yeah, they're the 12-figure company in the relationship. And because of that, oftentimes are sort of subject to decisions, timeframes, milestones that come from Microsoft. So they're ending their FY23, crunching the numbers and, in my time, and for a lot of people at Microsoft, sort of a quiet period, may be privy to sort of non-public information. As a publicly traded company, insider information is important to make sure you respect and so forth. So I have no doubts, no insight, but also no doubts that they'll have had a very, very good year. Maybe not great in the context of recent years for Microsoft, perhaps like the COVID and hybrid work bump, but a really, really positive year. So when I think about FY23 and I think about modern work and security, so those solutions are what mean the most to us here at Apex. And I captured a few notes about what I wanted to hit on. The first thing I wanted to talk about is Viva. They've really pushed into this space. It used to be called Frontline Worker. It used to be really focused on sort of that non-productivity user, that sort of factory floor, frontline kind of experience, maybe a cashier in a retail environment. Viva isn't that anymore now. It's a robust component of overall productivity. We spent some time on Fridays with Steve talking about Viva top to bottom, talking about goals, talking about engage, talking about all of the things that you can do with it to, train, educate, set goals for, get status of people's productivity and their sort of, I almost said behavior, and that's kind of the right word, but for some reason it feels a little awkward, right? Their performance when it comes to the environment, and this is a rapidly exploding space for solutions. I've got a couple of friends who've gone to work for companies that specifically focus in this area, right? Sort of that digital productivity, inspecting organizations in a more meaningful way. There's lots of data out there. Some of it, very kind of intimate, right? How many minutes a day does Steve spend in Teams meetings where he's muted? Like, that data probably exists, right? Down to that granular sort of level, but might make my boss a little uncomfortable, right? Saying, hey, you're muted a little bit too much. But that's not the goal of Viva, right? That's not really where it's starting. Where it's starting is, how do you take and enhance your organization, its productivity, its knowledge, its capability in a super, super meaningful way, and a way that's integrated with the rest of what Microsoft does from a modern work standpoint. And so we've seen a ton of interest, a ton of traction. Frankly, for us, it's a great opportunity, right? Because the penetration isn't there when it comes to adoption. And that's one of the things. I'll kind of circle back to adoption here in a second as well. The next thing I think that I've seen over the last year is really Teams moving beyond its initial implementation. With the transition from Skype for Business and that history of instant messaging and chat and voice and video and meetings and so forth to Teams, the initial burst was sort of that base level adoption. We got to get it out there. We especially got to get it out there because folks are staying home for a period of time or working remotely. And that, I feel like that bubble's sort of over, right? It's the rare occurrence where I talk to a customer that is, what is this Teams you speak of, right? So it doesn't really happen that much anymore. What does happen though is advanced workloads. Really seeing our customers work with us about moving up the stack, right? Not just meetings, but rooms, not just rooms, but signature rooms, not just signature rooms, but signature rooms with Surface Hub whiteboards or, Logi Scribes to really bring in the digital content. Another huge area that we've seen is around voice and sort of meaningful voice. I think all of us are pretty comfortable when it comes to voice chat or sort of viewing it that way, or the audio that goes with meetings. But we're doing full on call manager replacements. We're doing handset retirement and device rollouts that use Teams as a backbone with, partners like 8x8, enabling sort of the core voice component, people's phone numbers, groups, advanced functionality like IVRs or contact centers, and doing that with the Microsoft solution with the Teams backbone, so it all stays integrated. And so I see that as another place that evolution, that sort of moving up the stack, is happening. We're doing a lot more work in that space. People have channels figured out, right? They have file storage for the most part figured out. Now it becomes about apps. It becomes about integration. It becomes about bots. It becomes about signature rooms and truly integrated voice. That really has been important to us over the last year and has really been top of mind for customers, especially when, it's an investment that you've already made, or you've already made the bulk of it. And now you're looking at sort of expanding the value returned from that investment. It's great for us, right? It's great services work. We love helping customers with this stuff. Oftentimes, and I'll come back to this around security as well, it's enabling what you already own. And then the last thing kind of goes with that, which is, adoption and change management, right? Adopting, growing the footprint, retiring other systems, all of those kinds of things that sort of fall under that ACM umbrella. We've got great expertise and have worked with a lot of customers over the last year around, well, it's great that Teams has rolled out. How does it replace your monthly status process, right? Where are the integrations that'll lead to greater adoption around reporting or things like the Power Platform? And so we're doing a lot of work and helping a lot of customers in that space as well, saying, how do we collapse some of your disparate systems, some of your disparate processes into the tool people are in and using every day? It's really no different than sort of historical evolutions. I mean, for me, one of the funny ones is Outlook at one point was sort of seen as that engine. Whether it was public folders, whether it was automation and forms, it was viewed as like, hey, how do we get everything into Outlook? Looking back on that, it was a little ridiculous in some aspects, but it was what we had at the time. Teams feels like a much more reasonable place to do a lot of this adoption, right? And a lot of this, making the changes that'll make the environment better. Sometimes I hear Teams compared to the desktop. And I don't think it's a fully fair comparison, but I see where it's coming from, right? It's becoming your hub for how you work. The nice thing about this hub is that it travels with you, right? If I sign in on my iPhone or my iPad, or I use it on a desktop or via a web browser, that hub follows me wherever we go. And so we've been doing a lot of work in that space over the last year, over Microsoft's last fiscal year. And they've been investing in those kinds of things, right? So through our partnership, oftentimes we have opportunities to co-invest and really bring acceleration to you as a customer. And I'll talk a little bit about maybe what that looks like in FY24. I think there's some interesting changes when it comes to that co-investment. So how did it kind of change or shape the world of IT and the user experience? And so I jotted down a couple of notes. I mean, I think the first thing is Teams and Microsoft's modern work approach, I think, has made some massive percentage of us just super, super comfortable with hybrid. For a long period of time, the combination of tools, the tips and tricks, the know-how to work from anywhere was something that was a little bit more challenging. truth be told, in the late aughts, I had it figured out. I was, thankful and able to, work from a lakeside gazebo, because I understood the tools and could make it all work together so that the experience, both for me working as well as for what other people needed from me, made sense. I think I won't say it's ubiquitous, but I think that has become so widespread because of the advances in technology, because of the forcing functions of some of the things we've been through in the last 5 years. Because of those things, it's really ubiquitous, right? And it's really the base level expectation for all of your users, for all of your constituents, for all of your customers, is that these things all work and they're easily understandable, easily usable in a hybrid world. And so I think that's been a really big change, over the last year, is that everybody's comfortable with it, right? There's not that end user education hurdle when it comes to using this tech. As Teams is a great example because it's 100% cloud based. Gone are the days of synchronization and the Windows 95 backpack and or briefcase. All of those kinds of things have gone away, and so it's really approachable for everybody. More and more end users, have mobile as a requirement. It's something that they have to really be able to embrace something. I don't know what the status of VPNs are in the world. I haven't used one in a really long time. And because of that, maybe I'm not a good case study for it, but I'd like to think that we're using the technology advances and so forth in a way that the expectation is that it's going to work securely, predictably, productively on public networks, on home networks, on corporate networks, all of those kinds of good things. And so that mobile experience is really a requirement, really an expectation when it comes to our users. The last thing to touch on is just not only are they doing the base level stuff, I really feel like the customers I talk to and the users they service, the users they provide services to, have really moved far when it comes to advanced technology, right? I've been pretty much astonished by the penetration of things like ChatGPT and the integration with Bing from 9 months ago to today, right? I've talked before about how my sales team that is, of the next generation leans on these tools all the time, right? But I think that that's been pretty widespread across all of the customers, constituents, whatever that we deal with, right? There are a lot of people that are experimenting with the technology, that are becoming comfortable with it, frankly, that understand it, right? Large language models, or LLMs, is not a dark art term to a lot of people. There's a lot of people sort of in on the innovation and understanding where this stuff is, where it's going. And I've been fascinated by sort of the advancement of users over the last year. That endpoint for technology is just getting more and more savvy all the time. And part of that is personal tech. I'll get to security here in a second, but my example for that is if I ever talk to IT teams and we get on the subject of MFA, I'm like, you know what, if the Yahoo Fantasy Football app can use multi-factor authentication, I think we can in your environment, right? It has so penetrated the personal world when it comes to understanding the concept and being okay with how it works and understanding how it better protects all of us. If your end users are to that point, I think, it makes the conversation about doing that at a corporate organization level much easier. And so having that advanced tech everywhere, including on the consumer side, really has changed the game when it comes to it. Um, the other thing about security I wanted to mention, just for end users and thinking about where we're coming from, is, you know, really rationalizing the investment and attacking the low hanging fruit, saying, hey, I've got technology that is included with, my Microsoft licensing, the solutions I'm using over there. I can just turn some additional things on. Can I retire and simplify my existing environment? So this helps the end user, this helps IT to be able to say, hey, let's turn off these 4 different devices, these VPN and security apps that are running locally, and replace them with investments we've already made. For a number of customers, a couple top of mind for me, we've done the entire, ROI justification just based off of cost savings from, collapsing the infrastructure, making it simpler. And so that's been a huge advance over the last year as well. So let's finish up talking about moving into Microsoft's fiscal year 24. So I don't know, maybe some of you have noticed it's real quiet on their side of the fence. Not a lot of @Microsoft.com emails coming in for me right now. The typical cadence is, they'll sprint hard till June 30th. Then we've got the July 4th holiday here in the States. There's events like Inspire and the sales kickoff in July, as well as folks taking vacation. Because of that, it's kind of a quiet period. Microsoft always works hard to hit the ground running in July, with always mixed results. Some of you may be, waiting for new programs or new investments and things like that. And throughout Q4, with all my work with Microsoft and my contacts, it's always like, oh yeah, we're going to be ready to go July 1. And I go, yep, that's the goal. Godspeed. I wish them luck, because sometimes it happens and oftentimes it doesn't. It's really hard to, be that prepared for a new year coming. And so one of the things I've seen is continued changes. So here in FY24, I think there will continue to be changes, structure, accountability, account lists. Kind of get the sense that Microsoft sort of pulling resources back up the organizational size sort of food chain. It's always interesting to me, thinking about like Microsoft and Amazon, how they kind of like circle each other. Microsoft came down market, people in pods dealing with small business, the store initiative and business sales, at sort of a local, almost retail kind of level, direct licensing sales to businesses where you can, do your CSP interaction direct with Microsoft, kind of chasing Amazon. Amazon had that retail model. At the same time, Amazon opened offices and held partner briefings in person and hired local people. Here in Minneapolis, the Amazon office is well staffed by ex-Microsoft people. And so they kind of stalk each other. But coming into FY24, I see Microsoft kind of going back to parts of the old playbook, right? Really enabling partners to help customers, of a size, and focusing their efforts in a direct way up the food chain, looking to partners to transact, licensings for all but the smallest of customers, simply because partners like Apex are able to do that value add around support, around knowledge, all of those kinds of things. And so I see that as a change. I think there's going to be continued sort of staffing changes, organizational changes as it relates to people resources. I'm a little bit torn about that. I have a couple of, good friends who've been affected by these over the last 6 months. Hopefully that's done. But at the same time, I think there will continue to be changes like that. When I look at the investments we get, I do see a bit of a change, right? And this is where I'm excited to work with customers, in that I think Microsoft is going to target co-investment in a much more sort of meaningful and specific way. We've got a couple of engagements right now where Microsoft is investing with us and customers, adopting a big change in their environment, moving from E3 to E5, doing great, adoption around Teams and things like that. We've got that investment. I think those programs live on. I think they're going to be more focused on, specific customers rather than peanut butter, right? So I always think of sort of that peanut butter spread of things you do being a bit counterproductive, right? You're not investing enough in great opportunities, and you're investing too much in not so great opportunities, right? You only sort of get it right for that one customer in the middle. I get a sense that there's going to be a way for us to work with customers, tell great stories, get that investment, get that attention, on a sort of a case-by-case basis. And so I'm actually really excited about that. And so, it's I call them the 900-pound gorilla. We love 900-pound gorillas, but, they dictate a lot of, market direction the same way Amazon does, the same way Google does, the same way, Lenovo does or Dell does, setting some direction that, partners and customers as well, need to take into consideration as they're making their decisions. And so once everybody gets back from vacation, gets back from kickoff events, Microsoft Inspire for us partners is coming up in about a week and a half, where we get briefed on programs. There's product announcements, all of those kinds of things happening in July. So I anticipate it's sort of like a real-time production meeting, right? I anticipate probably in August, come back to the audience here with, with some updates from all of those events, all of those announcements. Probably talk about some of the programs we can engage with to help you adopt, migrate, do those things to drive your business, as well as additional updates from some of our other partners, right? This is a kind of high time for Logi and Poly and those guys to, make enhancements to their product lines and make some announcements as well, including fun stuff like the Logi. Oh, I never remember. Speak. Logi. Oh, it's the 360-degree camera that's team certified. We've been sort of missing that, ever since the Polycom C70 or whatever it was, the desktop, camera on a stick kind of world. And so having another team certified device will be great. I'm just going to check the comments just to make sure someone isn't helping me. Oh, the site. There it is. I knew Michael would help me. The Logi site. So that 360-degree team certified device, we're really excited to bring that to market. So those are some thoughts on sort of, the world according to Microsoft, right? Not saying it's a Microsoft world and we're living in it, but for many of us, it's an important relationship. I think it's important to understand sort of how they work internally, some of the constraints and some of the challenges they face when it comes to, hey, money runs out in June, money gets refreshed in July, programs get refreshed in July, all that kind of good stuff. So I hope you found this a little bit helpful. This is the kind of thing that you get as part of the engagement with Apex. We've been dealing with Microsoft, all of our 20 years. And for some of us, the relationship with products and solutions goes back even further. And because of that, we can really help not just navigate the technology and not just navigate the solutions, but actually navigate the overall environment and landscape, right? Help bring together the licensing, the solution, the adoption, the support, right? Managed services as well, and bring all of that together in a meaningful way for you and your company. And so just reach out, drop me a note, sthompson@apexdigital.com. Reach out to your account executive if you are already a customer, and let's have a chat, right? This is a good time to sort of check in on your strategy. I know for a lot of us, the calendar year is our fiscal year. So this is mid-year, right? This is a great time to evaluate sort of what you've been able to do and accomplish in the first half, and what you want to lay down as a strategy for the second half. My team will certainly attest to them being in that mode right now. We're doing those exact things in our business as well. So let us know how we can help. I hope you found this a little bit insightful, based around your Microsoft relationship and how to navigate it best. And we'll see you next time on Fridays with Steve.